Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are looking at a box set of airbrushes. Now this is the latest edition from Gaahleri. They've kindly sent this out to me so I could do a review for you guys. We'll do a little bit of a spray test, see what these brushes are like. Now this is the Celestial Dragon Collection 2024. So obviously the year of the dragon, the new year. Now this is a box set that Gaahleri has done, and this is limited to 300 guys. There's only going to be 300 of these made. You get it in a nice package box, like a deep sort of red. You've got your 2024 like a dragon design on the front. The box opens up in two halves. So you open one side, and then to this side you're getting two of the Gaahleri display stands, which I think are really cool, just to basically display your brush. I wouldn't use these when you're painting, when you've got painting them, because they're basically meant for display purpose. On these stands they are weighted to the bottom in like a chrome finish. They've got the 2024 with a dragon design, laser etch one side, and then Gaahleri to the opposite side. You've got two parts to these stands, so you can clip your brush, sit it on the top for the higher, or you can take this piece out and then you can have your brush sitting lower. So you've got the choice of sitting them like one behind the other. One can sit up higher, one can sit at the front a little bit lower. So you get two of these stands in the box. You get a trinket that comes in as well, like a Chinese emblem trinket in the box. To the opposite side, you get an envelope inside with, you'll get your Teflon washers and your spare O-ring. That comes with it. And then they've also gave you some Gaahleri stickers. You get two of the Gaahleri stickers inside, and then you get two of the, I'd say this is like a Raging Panda. You get them ones in there as well. And then you get Happy New Year Gaahleri 2024, and there's a little write up there, dear valid customers. That's a little write up on the back. You get that inside there as well. Then you get your sort of quick start guide in there, which gives you a full breakdown of the brush. If you get any troubles, you can break the brush down. It tells you a few things about like spray effects and patterns and things like that. So a little troubleshooting guide inside the box. And then you get your two brushes. Now, I've done reviews on the two Mobiuses because I've got two of the Mobiuses here. I've got the 02 and the 03. I've done reviews for you guys on these brushes and gave feedback to Gaahleri on the problems that I picked up on. And I think other YouTubers, other artists have given feedback as well, which is really good. And Gaahleri has took this on board. Now this is the latest edition of their two Mobiuses. So they emailed me and said, enjoy the brushes, give us some feedback on the changes that we've made to the triggers, the nozzle. They've done a bit of work on these, and now this is like the next generation of Mobius that's out. So you've got the 02, identical looking brush, no changes on the external body sort of sides, but I've noticed the trigger feels better on this one. Looks a lot better on the internals as well. When you look from one to the other, it just looks a lot more cleaner and precise. I wouldn't tell until I got the little, if I get the little camera and start poking around inside and looking at the finishes and all that, but just the actual feel, it just feels a lot better than the other one. So you get the 02, this one's got the MAC valve to the bottom, 02 needle and nozzle setup. You get a cap for your cup. Back of the brush you get your dial at the back, which dials your trigger in. So if you like to work with minimal sort of paint, you can dial this in and you can set your trigger distance for your paint. You've got your twist effect in the back of the body, so you can get to your chuck. If you wanted to blast through, you can just pull the chuck back like that and you can blast through your paint. The next dial down is tension, so you can set the tension on your trigger. So if you dial this all the way in, it'll stiffen up the trigger. So if you like working with a lot of like feedback in the trigger, you can tighten the spring up. Or if you like a softer trigger, you can dial this back out, it'll just soften that trigger up for you as you're painting. So that's nice a bit about this. Mac valve to the front work really nice on these, especially if you're working on detail, which this brush is set up for detail. It's a 02. When you want to work low pressure, you're not leaning over to your compressor or your regulator on the wall. You can dial your air in on the front of the brush, and it also, you can put your hand up to that and you can hold that as you're working. So comfortable to work with, nice slope on the trigger, grippy top, very comfortable brush. And I found that with the previous two Mobiuses that I did the review for you guys, they're really comfortable to work with. And I found these two were really precise anyway. I can just jump on them and paint, not a problem. So that's the 02. You get your Dragon Year Edition laser etched down the front of the body here. And then on the flat piece of the Mobius on the body here, you get 2024 laser etched with the dragon on that side. And then this side, you've got Mobius 0.2, Gaahleri Premium on the front here. So that's the 0.2 that's in the box. Then moving over to the 0.3. So same looking brush, slightly different back piece to dial your trigger in. I prefer personally the 0.3. When I did the review between the two on the last two, I just think the 03's a better setup. So if you're looking at buying one of these separately and you're thinking, oh, which one do I go for? I think for a better all-rounder, which will get you perfect detail just like the 02, I think the 0.3 is better. It just sits better with paint, a little bit easier. You get the bigger cup to the top, so you can get a little bit more paint in there. And it just feels a better all-round brush. I know you're not getting the Mac valve to the front, but you can get a Mac valve that clips to your body here. So it's not a big loss losing the Mac valve here. You can pick these up quite cheap. £12–13 for a Mac valve on your airline here, and you've got that feature of dialing in your air pressure. But I just found the 03 just a little bit easier to get on with. A lot less clogging on a 03 than a 02. You've really got to think about your paints. With all airbrushes, you have to think about your paints, guys. You really do. You've got to get them dialed in your air pressure, because all brushes will clog up and they can be an absolute pain if you're not getting your correct paint consistency. So that's the box set, a really nice sort of box set. So if you are a collector and you like the Gaahleri range and think, yeah, really like the look of that, I just think it's a good little twin set to pick up. Nice presented, you get your two holders, and the brushes sit really well in these. So you'd put your 02 in, and you just clip them in like that, and then you could set up your other one on the lower, and you could sit it like that lower down, so you can sit your two brushes up on your shelf in your studio, and you've got something nice to display your Mobiuses. So that's what's coming in the box, guys. We will get a piece of paper on the easel, drop some paint in them, and I'll just give them a little spray test on dots going up close, lines going up close for detail, a little bit of backed off shading. We'll try 25 psi on both brushes, and then we'll drop the psi down to about 10. We're going to use Createx illustration, thinned out 1:1, so I'll get the paint mix exactly the same for both brushes. And you'll see what I mean by, if you're thinking of, oh, I need to get the 0.2 because that's the finest one to get the finest detail down, you'll see what I mean by the 0.3 on how good it is. It'll match the 0.2 if you're thinking of, I need the smaller needle size to get the finer detail. You don't. The 03 will get it exactly the same. So we'll get some paper. Let's see what these brushes are like. Right, guys, we are all set up. I'm just going to mix a little bit of Createx illustration. 1:1. So 12 of each. Just give that a little mix around in the pot. We've got the 02 first. Now we're running, that's 25 psi, you can hear that, I'm just pressing down on the trigger. Mac valve fully open, this Mac valve on the brush fully open. So we'll run it at 25, drop a little bit of paint in. I'm going to take the crown cap off for this demo, pull it through, and we'll just do now instantly. It wants reseating. Just feels like when you're pressing down we've got paint coming straight out. So super down, guys. I mean, instantly straight away you're just touching the trigger. We'll do a few little lines. Really, really super fine on that. That's probably not even picking it up on camera, but they're hairlines straight away. Now, just reseating that needle, the chuck was a bit loose for a start. You'll probably find that if you get one out of the box, you may have to just reseat the needle. So undo your chuck at the back, bring your needle to the front, just hold it at the front and then tighten your chuck up, because that released straight away when I pressed down on the trigger. But the actual response in this trigger now is ridiculously on point, guys. You're literally just, this is at 25. This paint's just spitting at this. It's just spidering off that. So if we bring this down a bit, that's better. This is probably running around 10 psi. So bring that back up. So it does get super down. The trigger feels really responsive. I think it feels better than the original Mobius 0.2. Feels a little bit more responsive. It really does. Shading. It can get some really nice soft transitions down with this. You really can. This is a 1-to-1 mix on the illustration, and that's really nice soft transition. See, now it's gone back to that again. Press down, paint's coming out. So it feels like this needs reseating again. It's a weird one, guys. Now it's good again. I don't think that chuck was tightened up enough at the back. But really nice to work with. I can't fault it on how it sprays, just that little bit of fiddliness with the having to keep reseating it. We'll keep using it, see if it does it again, but I mean, look how fine this thing can get down. It's like, that is really fine. And I mean, ridiculously fine on lines. The camera's not picking that up because I would have to zoom right in. I'll zoom right in with the camera in a minute and I'll show you what it's achieved. But you're basically, on this trigger when you use it, I'm sort of, finger sort of to the top. I don't use the slope at the front. I'm sort of the top to the back. And I put my thumb to the side. And basically my thumb and my finger touch together. And I'm basically just rocking. Just feels like you're rocking your pad on your finger. You're moving the pad on your finger. And it's just like really responsive. You can get absolutely tiny dots down. Really nice on sort of like hair type strokes. If you wanted to do them real fine like eyelashes on a portrait or some really fine little hair strokes, this brush will get it. It really will. It's not doing that. I think it was where the needle was just needed to tighten up a little bit more on that chuck. That's all it was. But responsive, it atomises really well. Full pass on paint. You can get the paint down with it on a 0.2. So if you are thinking of a Mobius, for the price, I don't think you can go wrong, guys. Not for the price. They're really easy to clean. For the price they're coming out at, you're getting sort of a lot of brush for the money. You really are. It does what it says it's supposed to do. It will get your detail down. It's like all these brushes on this back wall. They'll all get this sort of detail down. It's the person on the trigger and how good you are on the trigger to achieve these tiny little fine lines and dots. But you're not always working at this tiny little amount of dots and lines. You are working at broader strokes, softer passes, and this brush will achieve them. So that's the 0.2. Works really well. I think it works better than the original. I will hook the original one up in a minute. In fact, I will hook the original one up now. So this was the older one. And blast some water through, just give it a little blast through. And we will see what this one's going to perform like. Put too much water in. Right, drop a little bit of paint in. I'll take the crown cap off this one and we'll just see. See, this feels exactly the same. Instantly down. I think the new one's a little bit better. This is getting down the same, but the new one, the trigger's more responsive. So I think Gaahleri have done some changes to it. Yeah, there just seems like there's a little bit more movement in this one on the trigger to hit the real fine one. So I reckon they've tweaked the trigger mechanism on it on the newer editions. But this thing still gets seriously down. I mean, I can work with this one. Super down. Same sort of atomisation. Drop the PSI down. And it just performs the same, really. You just got a little bit more smoother, just slightly smoother, I'd say, in the trigger. Very slight. But again, it works. So if you are thinking of buying a 0.2, you won't really see much changes between the two. A little bit slightly more control, very slightly more, a little bit more response in the trigger. But it's either here or there, guys. It really is. It's either in or there. Easy to paint with. They both clean up really easy because the cups are very highly polished. So just blasting water through these and they clean up really quick. So that's the old 02. Just put the crown cap back on. We'll move over to the 2024 edition, the new 03, and I'll show you what I mean by going from a 0.2 going up to a 0.3. So we'll drop some paint in, 25 psi, and we will just do, and straight down. This thing gets seriously down like the 0.2, instantly exactly the same, but you will find the 0.3 will flow just that little bit easier. So really consistent. You can get from real tiny down, hairlines, bringing the trigger out, up to full trigger, and then back down to fine hairlines with consistent. So from real fine, pulling the trigger back, bringing more paint out, comes nice and clean, and then taking it back down, bringing the trigger forward down to fine stuff, it just performs really well. I think the 03 is a better brush. I really do. It's that sweet spot with the needle and nozzle on the 0.3. You'll just get on with it a little bit better. It'll handle your slightly thicker paints better. So works really well. Works just like the 0.2. Trigger feels the same, feels smooth, responsive. Nice for going in if you're working and you want them small little areas that you want to do some shading in. Yeah, it's a nice brush. Because I use all these different brushes, you can really get a feel of how it's going to sort of be when you come to paint with it. Now, I've just been using the Micron recently. I've jumped on the Micron, and I like the longer brushes. This like long body, I like that long feel where you can get your other hand up and work. But jumping on the Micron the other day, taking you closer up to the work, and with the precision of the Micron when you're coming up close, you really can get to feel what these brushes can do, going from the Micron to say the Mobius, then jumping onto a H&S Evolution. They've all got their own sort of characteristics when it comes to going in and getting these sort of details. Some of the brushes can hit these a lot easier than others. And I find the Mobius they are accurate at going in on this small stuff. So if you are working on them tiny little hairs and things like that, and you're working on a lot of small stuff, these brushes will sit, you'll be comfortable with them. You won't sort of struggle to hit these tiny little things. What I like about these is I like to back off with them. I wouldn't pick these two up as my go-to detail brush, but if I was painting something slightly bigger, like a bigger portrait, where you're sort of backing off and just puffing that paint in, I find these style of brush very nice for that, for getting them real nice soft transitions down. There's other brushes that I would pick up for this sort of stuff where I'm really, really in close. I mean, the 0.3 is very accurate. It really is. I mean, they're tiny little dagger strokes. Yeah, they are nice, guys. For getting super down. I will do some artwork with these new edition ones. I'll do some artwork for you on the channel and sit with it for a few hours, because we can all do dots, lines and little squiggles. Near enough every YouTuber goes, here's a review for you, let's do some lines. Yeah, it can pass really nice, it's really good, and you don't really get, anyone can do this sort of stuff on a review. I think sitting with it for 3 or 4 hours on a piece of artwork where you've got to put all these pieces in that you're doing here actually on a piece of artwork, where you're going in on something, because on this it doesn't matter if you balls it up, but when you're on a piece of artwork, that's when you need that precision to be on point. When you pick up the brush, go in, and it needs to be on point straight away, and that's when you know how good the brush is, when you're working with it and sitting with it on a piece of artwork. Because when you're doing stuff like this and you blast a bit, it don't matter, it's just a test panel, so it doesn't matter if you get a blowout or you go up and then the brush suddenly splatters because something's wrong with it. When you're on a piece of artwork, it's a different ball game, and that's when you really get to see how the brushes perform. But off the bat, out the box, because we've just took these straight out the box, I think they're performing all right. They're getting down. We went from fine up to wide pattern back down to fine, and it does it. So that's the new 03. We will hook up the first 03, take the crown cap off, drop a bit of the Createx in, and straight away it's the same, guys. There's no exactly the same response. Super down on dots, and as I say, yes, I'm probably making this look easier for the beginners out there, where I'm doing these really fine lines and just going bang, 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 bang with the dots. It all goes down to your paint mix as well and what paint you're using. That is a quality paint. It really is. I think Createx Illustration, I find, is one of the best, if not the best, for flowing. For like a one-to-one mix with water, I don't think you'll beat it on a paint to flow. The only other sort of paints you will match it with are like your solvents, if you're mixing solvent paints. But I think the way Createx flows in a brush, it makes your life easier. If you're getting craft paints and thinning them down as a beginner, and you've just brought yourself a Mobius 0.3 and going, yeah, with your craft paint, you're going to struggle. So when you start thinking of buying a decent brush, put decent paint in it. You really have got to start putting some decent paint in it, because if you start using cheap craft paints, yes, they're all right as a beginner. Cheap craft paint on a 0.5 is ideal because you can wallop the paint out. But when you start coming down on your needle sizes, you've really got to change the brand of your paint and just spend that little bit more money on better paint. If you want something to flow like this and hit them tiny little dagger strokes like that, and tiny little dots, you've got to get a decent paint, because you're not going to achieve that with a thick, cheap craft paint. You're really not. I think that's where a lot of beginners go wrong. Yes, practice with your cheap paints. I've got some of the cheap paints, but you just got to you've got to thin them down. Right, my final thoughts on the Mobius 02 and Mobius 0.3 by Gaahleri. I think they are good brushes, and that's my honest opinion. You know, you see all these brushes on the wall. I'm a diehard H&S fan, always will be. They're my go-to. I've been loving them at the minute, because we've been doing the latest portrait with the Micron. Absolutely loved it. And then probably tomorrow I'll jump on to, say, the Sotar and be like, oh, I love it. You know, but you pick your brands and you sort of stick to them. You get your diehard fans. You've got your diehard fans of Iwata, H&S, the ones that are on there. Everyone's got their own personal sort of brand that they like. And I do see on the Facebook forums, like airbrush forums, you see people, oh, it's just another cheap Chinese brand, Gaahleri, oh, come on the block, won't be around for long. They'll be gone within a year. And these are the sort of comments you're getting from your diehard fans of a brand that they've been with for a long time. And nothing compares to these brushes. Nothing compares to Iwata. Nothing compares to H&S or Sagola or Rich Pen. You know, I think it's really cool that another brand is started up. They're producing brushes. It just gives the airbrush community and sort of industry a little boost, you know, when another company starts releasing new stuff and doing some really sort of cool stuff, you know, different designs and different ways, and then really sort of pushing the boundaries, because I think airbrush companies have got really stagnant. It's like they're all sort of like ticking along, producing the same stuff. H&S are really doing big changes at the minute, and that's why I'm digging what H&S are doing, because they take on board the feedback, what people are saying. They watch these channels, they watch the artists, they look at the comments of what people are saying. They go across to forums and they look at what everyone's saying, about their brushes and things like that, and they make the changes, and then they release something really cool, and that's what they're doing. And I think Gaahleri has done the same. They like the feedback, you know. They like the, oh, I don't like the trigger, this could be a little bit better or whatever. They take it on board. They go, right, there's been addresses about this, this, this and this. They go to the guys at Gaahleri and go, right, this, and this we're going to sort out, we're going to sort this and that out. And they have done. They've sent me the 2 new Mobiuses, and they said, enjoy the brushes, tell me your thoughts, we've done some tweaks, tell me what you think. And I noticed the difference straight away on that test panel. I could feel the difference in the trigger. So they have done some work on the brushes, and it's a positive, guys, it really is. So for the price, if you are thinking of any of the Gaahleri range, they're value for money. They're good brushes, they're solid, they work. So if you're starting out and you're wondering which one to go for, do I go for the Mobius, do I go for the 98, the 39, do I need the 68? If you're a beginner and you have got a budget and you're thinking Gaahleri, start with the 39, jump on the 39, get used to it. You get 2 needle and nozzle sizes, so you can chuck the 0.5 in. You can batter some thick paint down with it and not worry. It's a nice cheap affordable brush at around 35 quid. Use that for a year, get to grips with it, and then if you're liking the range, you like the feel of the brushes, you can then move on to the 98 and then eventually move on to the Mobius. It's like with any brand. You know, I say it with H&S, an ultimate beginner's brush, if you're going into the H&S brand, is the Ultra. It's like, you won't get better. If you're on the H&S brand and you're starting out Ultra and work your way up, Evolution, Infinity, Iwata again. Starting out brush, Eclipse, 05 Eclipse or Revolution 05, you won't go wrong. And then you move your way up. I'd jump then probably onto a Takumi Eclipse on a 035, then you work your way up to the Micron. It's what you do. Creo, same again, 289, start out with that, say, move up to a 270, then you start wanting more detail, jump onto the 771. Brilliant. Sagoli, you can do it with that brand. Badger, you can do it with that brand. It's whatever brand and whatever budget you can afford. But final thoughts, they're good brushes, you know, they're good brushes. And it was really nice that they sent them out. Then another batch of them sent them out and said, give them a go. And it comes in a really nice box set. And they're a collector's edition. So thank you very much, Gaahleri, for sending them out. I'll give you a little email and some feedback. Drop your comments, guys, if you've got a Mobius. Tell me your thoughts on your Mobiuses. And if you are new to the channel and you're liking the content, I always say it, click the subscription, press the notification so you don't miss out on up and coming videos, because there's just such a mixed bag on this channel at the minute. There's loads of stuff coming up at the minute. There's proper random. It's all to do with paint, but it's different styles of painting. Yeah, and I will see you lot in the next one. Thanks again. Cheers, guys.